What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about how to AFK through siege rollers in Chaos 7 in the current build of the game. Now, this is definitely not a progression build, although if you had a decent assortment of shards, you could probably make a build like this work in everything but Chaos 2 and Chaos 5. This video is more pointed at the endgame player who's going through the grind, we're waiting for Onslaught to come, and just doing nothing but Ascension farming. You all know who you are, and you also know how irritating it is when you set up your build and you turn around to watch TV, or to go get a drink, or to make a sandwich, and you come back and see the map is over because you took too long and a siege roller went through and killed your stuff. Now, I did promise this video in today's live stream, as I have been using this quite a bit to grind over the last few days, so let's go ahead and run through it. First off, I'd like to start off with a proton beam in a large V shape like this. This is assuming, of course, that the lovely embroiderer, what is her name now? I can't remember what her name is. Seamstress. The lovely Seamstress is the baddie coming at us. That is the spawn point, and we're going to start off with a proton beam. We're going to go ahead and go with Snaking Sands. Now, the reason I'm centering this entire build around Snaking Sands is, of course, the newest Hyper Shard, Destructive Pylon. I will go through all the shards here in just a moment. Then I'm going to get back on my EV, and I'm going to go ahead and put a 4-node or 3-panel reflect beam in any fashion, just directly around that sand trap, and then hopping over to the monk for a flame aura and a lightning strikes aura, all close enough to get that buff from Destructive Pylon. So that sand trap is now buffing my reflect beams, my proton beam, my lightning strikes aura, and my flame aura all together. Now, the reason I pack it all together like this up at the front of the proton beam is I want to have a little area at the end, I like to call it the tail of the proton sticking out here, where when the siege roller comes through, it will take a moment to get past the final bit of the beam, and that of course allows these reflect beams to just have their way at the sweet spot of the roller once it passes over. Now, as you see, I have used 160 DU. This combined with a wall, for example, would be 190 DU, and just this setup alone would work on most of the current Chaos 7 maps. Now let's go ahead and take a quick run through all of the shards. Now, first off, as I mentioned, we are using the Destructive Pylon and my Snaking Sands with Power Transfer and Deadly Strikes. I'm using these on a medallion. As you see, this particular medallion is not exceptional, but it's not terrible either. It gets the job done, works just fine, and does massive amounts of damage. Now we're moving on over to the EV2. We're using the proton beams with Power Transfer, Frosty Beams, and Defense Crit Damage. Power Transfer on a medallion is really kind of the standard go-to on any 20 DU defense. The proton beam does calculate upgrades as if it was a 20 DU defense, so I do encourage using a medallion over a mark on this particular defense with Power Transfer in it. And then we're going to go with Frosty Beams and Defense Crit Damage. Of course, that Frosty Beams is really what's making the case here for the proton beam. Just the proton with Frosty Beams and a sand trap with range will pretty much bring darn near any lane to an absolute standstill, and just an absolutely wonderful combination. And then of course we're going with reflect beams. Now, one of the things that make reflect beams so awesome is the newest hyper shard, or not the newest, one of the hyper shards, Vicious Strikes. Increases the defense range of the effective tower by 2275 units. As most of you that are familiar with range scalers know, you do realize that reflect walls start with a really low range number. As you see, with that shard in, we're at 2575. Without the shard, we're all the way down to 300. So Deadly Strikes or the Torpedo Striker, which I believe is removed now, are both good shards for reflect beams. However, they're going to give you an increased percentage of a very, very low number, where Vicious Strikes is going to just straight up give you the 2275 units, bringing the explosive range up in enormous fashion on them. So Vicious Strikes is not necessarily 100% required. However, it will make your life a million times easier if you have it. Then we also had a Flame Aura, which is kind of standard issue, power transfer, deadly strikes, and defense crit damage. And then power transfer, deadly strikes, and vampiric empowerment on an LSA. Use whatever you want in these. Marks work, medallions work. I personally use marks. As you know, I like to maximize every single defense, and a mark gives a little bit more consistent damage. Or pardon me, a medallion gives a little bit more consistent damage over the mark, and that's why I use mainly medallions. However, use what's in your inventory. Anyway, very, very fun build. It makes things real easy on you. Can't really say anything but that. It's pretty much a full-on semi-AFK build. You won't have to do anything shy of hitting G and throwing a few upgrades around. As far as your upgrade priority, you definitely want to upgrade the reflect beams and the proton beams over anything else. And then using that 190 DU will give you a little bit of room on most of the maps to throw down a anti-air, be it a Skyguard Tower or a Hailstorm, whatever you decide to use. However, this build has just done wonders for my grind, and I plan on continuing to use it over the next couple of weeks as we wait for Onslaught. So thank you once again, I do appreciate it. Click that like button and please subscribe to the channel, and as always, there will be much more Dungeon Defenders 2 coming. Let me know in the comments below what you want to see next. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.